When you've got a bunch of demons and other characters that literally live in hell, it can be pretty hard to parse out which ones are good and which are truly evil. Still, even in a place like hell, there can be a wide spectrum of moralities.
This is hell, Millie. No one cares about cars being clean here, okay?
With how many lovable characters VisiPop's Hell of a Boss has given us, we just had to take a look at the ones we've met so far before Season 2 starts up this July. So, who's got a chance at heaven and who is right where they belong? I'm Caleb with Wicked Binge, and this is Hell of a Boss, Good to Evil. As always, we're going to be starting with the kindest, noblest, or in this show's case, least bad characters before working our way down. These characters are the good. By default, we had to give our gold medal of good to the Cherubs, Cletus, Colin, and Keeney. Being the heavenly version of Imp, the Cherub's purpose is to offer protection services to those in the land of the living. In addition to this noble cause, the Cherubs also do this free of charge, all because it's the right thing to do. But while we may approve of people being saved from a gruesome death, the Cherubs themselves aren't quite as pure as they like to seem. After dealing with Imp's interference and reaching their wits' end, we see that the three Cherubs actually have a bit of a temper. They insult the members of Imp and even try to attack them in order to get them out of the way. We should also add that they seem more focused on the job itself rather than the people, with them saying they're going to save Lyle's life whether he wants it or not. So yeah, certainly not perfect, but since they're technically the most heroic, there isn't really any other character that tops them. Earning the silver medal of good is Vortex, Verosika's bodyguard and Luna's friend/love interest. Though he may seem like your typical tough guy bruiser, Vortex is pretty nice for a hellhound. He's friendly and pretty approachable, only threatening violence for Verosika's sake. Otherwise, he's pretty chill outside of his job. This is what allows him to form such a strong connection with Luna, who he sees as a friend.
Yeah, my girlfriend throws a ton of crazy hound parties.
With no real dark side, he easily makes the top half of our list. For the bronze medal of good, we're giving it to Octavia. In many ways, Octavia can be your typical angsty teenager, being incredibly snarky and often disrespectful towards other people, even towards her own father. Still, given that it was Stolas who broke up their family, we feel she has a right to be a little mad at him. Much like Vortex, Octavia doesn't really have much of a dark side outside of her rudeness. She's even willing to give her father a second chance when she sees that he regrets hurting her and wants to make things right between them. So maybe there's a bit more to this owlette than meets the eye. Next, we have our first Imp member, Moxie. Often considered to be Imp's weapons specialist and sharpshooter, Moxie manages to be the most good of the team despite still being an assassin. While he may kill people for a paycheck, it's made clear that in episodes like Murder Family that he isn't heartless and doesn't want to kill people who are innocent or who aren't their intended target. He was even willing to give Martha's family a second chance, though this didn't quite work out. It's a bit ironic that even as a demon, he's got a pretty kind heart. Speaking of that heart, Moxie is also an incredibly loving husband. We even see him write and sing love songs just for Millie on a couple occasions. Additionally, while they may butt heads quite a bit, Moxie is loyal to Blitz and always has his back in a fight. Overall, there's quite a bit to like about Moxie, and not just because he's voiced by Invader Zim himself, Richard Horvitz. Finishing up the good are the dork agents, Agent 1 and 2. Part of a government group that investigates paranormal activity, we see these two capture Blitz and Moxie towards the end of Season 1 in the hopes of getting information from them about hell and demons. From Imp's side of things, they're certainly villainous, given that they not only kidnapped two members of their team, but also tried using Truthgas to try and get more intel from them. However, because we don't know why they want this intel, it's reasonable to assume that the only reason why Agents 1 and 2 want to know about demons is so they can protect Earth from them. Given how much collateral damage we've seen Imp cause, we can kind of understand this motivation. We should also mention that outside of the previously mentioned kidnapping and gas exposure, the agents don't really do anything too horrible. Or at least nothing as horrible as some of the other crimes we'll get to further down this list. So, they just barely managed to make it into the good. Next up, we have the characters that fall somewhere in between good and evil. This is the gray area. Starting this tier off, we have the sweet yet dangerous Millie. Often lively and cheerful, Millie is the most positive member of Imp, often being up for anything. While in battle, Millie is probably the most ruthless killer on the team, becoming incredibly violent when angry or protective. This even extends to outside her work, as she apparently killed several other demons during one of the previous harvest festivals, indicating that she may have a hard time controlling herself. We should also mention that, unlike Moxie, she isn't very sympathetic towards their targets. Still, when it comes to her friends and her husband, Millie can be both supportive and loving.
You don't need my parents to respect you?
Honestly, if it weren't for her blood rage, she could have easily made it into the good. As it stands, she gets placed just on the edge of gray. Following her, we have the passionate Prince Stolas. There wasn't much to Stolas at first, with his main character traits being how infatuated he was with Blitz and how over the top he could be with these affections at times. As the season went on, however, we saw more sides of his character. While his eagerness to pursue a relationship with Blitz may have been careless, Stolas does seem to regret his cheating once he realized how much his actions have hurt Octavia. Though he can be selfish, often acting on his own desires before thinking of others, he will still try to rectify those mistakes. This was seen in episode 7, where he tried to make it up to Blitz after failing to stand up for their relationship. Overall, Stolas is a character with a lot of faults and a lot to learn, but he's also got a big heart and isn't necessarily a bad guy, even if we can't completely excuse the bad choices he makes. Up next, we have the show's main demon, Blitzo. The O is silent. Easily the most bombastic and complicated character in the show, all Blitz wants is to prove himself and, whether he wants to admit this or not, to find love, either through his not-so-professional relationship with Stolas or through his work family. Because of past traumas that we haven't yet learned about, it can be hard for Blitz to let down his walls, and as such, he can be incredibly rude and hurtful with his words, especially to Moxie, who he's almost constantly insulting.
Millie, I am not above hitting a female in front of her daddy.
His loneliness can also lead him to being clingy and inconsiderate. Still, this affection isn't all bad, as the love he has towards Luna and the M&Ms is genuine. As such, Blitz is both loyal and protective, even being willing to show his genuine side when he has to, like when he complimented Moxie during Truth Seekers. While his status as an assassin may indicate how little he cares for the lives of people outside his personal circle, Blitz is still a guy who cares a lot once he forms a connection with someone. Unfortunately, this connection doesn't always prevent Blitz from putting walls back up or from being selfish and self-destructive. Nothing is a bigger indicator of this than his past relationship with Verosika and how he ended things there, never apologizing for how much he hurt her or for stealing her credit cards. It's unclear at the moment how much Blitz is going to grow and change, either for better or worse in Season 2. For right now though, Blitz's chaotic nature manages to earn him a spot right in the middle of our list. Right under Blitz is his adopted hellhound daughter, Luna. While Octavia's rude tendencies were mostly passable, Luna often takes her aggression to a whole new level when she's annoyed. She cares very little for the people she works with, and she doesn't even offer Blitz much common courtesy. Like Blitz, she's often insulting Moxie and isn't afraid to verbally or even physically attack others. We can't forget her literally kicking a baby in the pilot episode. Still, for as awful as Luna can be at times, she's more overly emotional than outright evil, often wanting to just do her own thing instead of getting wrapped up in whatever Imp is doing. Luna also does care for Blitz at least a little, even feeling a bit guilty after yelling at him in Spring Breakers, and helping rescue him in Truth Seekers. While her more aggressive and surly side earns her a lower spot, we now know that she can be helpful and a decent person when she wants to be. Wrapping up the gray area, we have two of the most recent characters at the time of writing, Asmodeus and Fizzaroli. Together, these two run the most famous nightclub in the Lust Ring, offering a place for demons to be intimate without any sort of judgment, which is admittedly a pretty nice thing to do. In their debut episode, we see them mess with and insult both Moxie and Blitz, the former for his song being more focused on romance than lust, and the latter for his disaster of a love life. Both instances are pretty mean on their part, hence their low ranking. However, there are a few things that keep them from landing in the bad tier. Firstly, the duo also call out Stolas for breaking up his family, which, yeah, fair, cheating should always be called out. Secondly, for as much as they may have hated Moxie's lovey-dovey song, they do let him finish it before kicking him and Millie out at the very least. Finally, the two do seem to care about one another if Ozzy's protectiveness of Fizz is anything to go by. So, for all these reasons, we can't quite consider them bad enough to be put in the bad tier. Finally, we've reached the lowest of the low. These characters are the bad to evil. Starting off this section is the pop star succubus, Verosika Mayday. Because she's an actual succubus, it's no surprise that she can be both seductive and manipulative, needing to feed off the lust of humans. This already isn't great morality-wise, and you can add in the fact that she can be incredibly petty towards those she has a bad history with, like Blitz. Verosika also isn't the best role model, being someone who is in and out of rehab and who is often seen chugging down Beetlejuice, a powerful drink that she can be pretty reckless with, given that she ended up accidentally creating a giant fish monster with it. There's also a shot of her on the cover of a magazine in episode 7, encouraging others to binge drink because it's sexy. Yikes. Still, for as bad as Verosika can be, we can't say that she's outright evil, so she only lands here at the top of bad. Moving on, we have Stola's ex-wife, Stella. While we won't argue that Stolas was certainly in the wrong when it came to his cheating, we can't say that Stella handled it in the best way. Her understandable rage at this action crossed the line when she hired the assassin Stryker to kill her ex-husband as revenge. This is enough to get her in our bottom 4. But we should also mention that as a mother, Stella is implied to be neglectful at best. She doesn't seem all too close to Octavia, pushing Stolas to comfort her when she's upset instead of doing it herself. Nor does she seem to care about how Octavia would likely be heartbroken if Stolas were to be killed. Because she's a minor character, we can't put her any lower, but she's definitely made an impression so far. Earning the Bronze Medal of Evil, we come to the pair of Loop-de-Goop-de and Lyle Lipton. Co-founders of Lyle Loop-de Robotics, these two were inventing partners while they were still alive. Both are shown to be pretty eccentric as well as extremely greedy, having little to no care towards anyone or anything else. This even extended to experimenting on children and poor people. With Loop-de specifically, he was willing to hire Imp to kill Lyle as an act of revenge. It was later revealed that Loop-de only wanted Lyle dead so he could be with him again, and while that is sort of sweet, it was still messed up to have him killed. As for Lyle, he seems to be much more greedy than his partner, being unable to overcome this greed even as the cherubs show him all the other great things about life. Overall, these two are just all around terrible people, and it's no surprise that they're two of the least liked characters in the fandom. Getting the Silver Medal of Evil is going to everyone's favorite snake-like cowboy assassin, Stryker. One of the toughest characters in the entire series, it's implied that Stryker will do any assassin job, no questions asked. He's cocky and arrogant, as well as cunning and manipulative, knowing exactly how to get under Moxie's skin and tempt Blitz.
I'd like to take this opportunity to sing a quick song I wrote just now about me winning.
Although he and Imp are both assassins for hire, Stryker takes it one step further by being willing to kill not only other demons, but also anyone who gets in his way, being even more ruthless than Millie in some instances. He also seems to look down on those weaker than him, getting a lot of pleasure out of mocking and overpowering Moxie. Although it's hard to say whether or not he genuinely wanted Blitz as a partner, we will give him a couple points for his occasional moments of respect towards the other demon, even calling out Stolas for using Blitz as a plaything. Still, this isn't nearly enough to keep him off the podium of evil. Finally, our gold medal of evil is the matriarch of the murder family, Martha. Being the first real villain of this series, she's a homicidal Southern belle of sorts, being someone who was incredibly violent and even psychopathic towards the Imp team. She also appears to partake in cannibalism and human flaying with her family, being much darker than her beauty and sweet smile would indicate. Outside of all the murder, Martha also not only cheats on her husband, but is perfectly happy sleeping with other married men, not caring if she wrecks other marriages. Not only is Martha heartless, but she seems to take immense pleasure in her evilness. Really, we felt there was no one more deserving of our bottom spot than her.
All right, kids, guns out!
Still, we have to wonder if any character in Season 2 will outdo her in terms of evilness. So that's our list. But of course, we have just a few sinner medals to give out. The Darwin medal goes to Agents 1 and 2. While not complete idiots, they have very little understanding of hell and demons and are also incredibly easy to mess with. The Sloth medal goes to Luna, who is often seen slacking off and who absolutely hates doing her actual job. The Wrath medal has to go to Millie. Though not constantly angry, her moments of blood rage are more than enough to earn her this medal. The Lust medal naturally has to go to Veronica. She's a succubus after all, and one who isn't afraid to flaunt all the things that are desirable about her. The Envy medal easily goes to Blitz, who always seems to be after something, whether that be power, respect, or love. We're also giving him the Pride medal. Blitz puts a lot of weight into his skills as an assassin, and whenever someone challenges these skills, he doesn't hesitate and try to prove them wrong. Finally, the Greed medal goes to Lyle Lipton, who was enough of a cheapskate that he wasn't even willing to pay for a photo of money, opting to use a free stock photo instead. And there you have it. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.